Dying of thirst? What do you drink? Down in these rotting alleyways, even a gulp of murky water is a luxury. Think you're watching a doomsday documentary? Think again. Welcome to the country that was once the second richest in Asia. A stunning tropical paradise. A place that made South Korea and Singapore look on with sheer envy back in the 60s. Boasting sleepless, skyscraper-lined avenues, once poised to become an Asian tiger, but today the tiger is nowhere to be found, leaving only chaotic ruins on the streets. Behind that innocent smile lies a historic economic freefall. What on earth happened? Let's rewind. This place was never a cohesive nation to begin with. It was just a scattered puzzle, forced together at the barrel of a Spanish colonial gun. 300 years of brainwashing transformed tens of thousands of islands into a devoutly Catholic land. With a hybrid culture, like a mini Latin America, accidentally dropped right into Asia. Then the US kicked Spain to the curb. The new boss arrived, bringing infrastructure, schools, and spreading a highly contagious virus called consumerism. The elite were spoon-fed a culture of indulgence. They morphed the economy into a twisted monster, turning the entire country into one giant plantation, selling off raw agricultural products just to print magical growth numbers in the headlines. Meanwhile, millions of dirt-poor farmers broke their backs in the fields for peanuts, earning less than a quarter of an American worker's daily wage. Outrage exploded. American agricultural capitalists desperately wanted to dump this dead weight to protect local jobs back home. The Game of Thrones was officially on. The Great Depression hit. The US nodded and granted them a highly calculated independence. But, ironically, the comprador landlord class trembled in fear, completely refusing to be weaned off the colonial bottle. World War II swept through like a firestorm, paving the way for a brutal, definitive breakup contract. Independent on paper, but in reality, they tied themselves straight to the US dollar. The country was sold out by the very people counting cash over the blood and sweat of their own citizens. These dazzling gifts under the pine tree were once a tangible dream after the gunsmoke of World War II cleared. The chance to flip the script was right in the palm of their hands. A young workforce, an American-style education, rhythm, and party melodies tearing through the night. As war broke out elsewhere in Asia, orders poured in like an avalanche. Looms thundered day and night, and production skyrocketed hundreds of times over. Blinded by the glare of industry, they looked like a true Asian tiger. People joyfully dreamed of a second Japan rising from these coconut-shaded villages. But it was all a mirage. Instead of biting the bullet to upgrade their core tech like South Korea did, they fell asleep on their dreamy beaches, cannibalizing each other in the cheap labor trap. Wages wouldn't budge, only the wrinkles deepened. As the countryside stagnated, the destitute masses could only grit their teeth and watch their Southeast Asian neighbors leave them in the dust. They couldn't even keep up with Thailand. The majestic grace of nature out there couldn't hide the brewing storm born of sheer short-sightedness. And just like that, from paradise, they nosedived straight into the mud. The government frantically pulled the land reform card, promising to redistribute land to soothe the heavy sighs echoing beside the crystal-clear waterfalls. The harsh reality: the elite swallowed everything whole. Farmers had to take out high-interest loans just to buy back their own sweat, while the guy sitting on the throne of power kicked back and enjoyed the show. The rural system completely collapsed. This rusting machine was screaming for a cure. They cried out to the International Monetary Fund, IMF. The reply was ice cold. Want to borrow money to weather the storm? Open up your markets and sell off your state-owned enterprises because your government is way too involved. And so, national assets were put up for a fire sale. Foreign capital flooded across the beaches, seizing every economic lifeline. Free market competition was worshipped to the skies. But behind that mutually beneficial handshake, solid gold bars continued to flow right back out of the country. Western scholars sat smugly in their air-conditioned rooms, drawing up this cure-all chart and forcing countless nations to swallow this highly toxic prescription. The indigenous people kept dancing in their innocence, completely unaware that their death warrant had been quietly signed at the conference table. The end game, whoever took the pill, died. The economy suffered a massive across-the-board collapse. Amidst the breathtaking nature, the price of dependence turned out to be incredibly bitter. Can these picturesque chocolate hills really mask the stench of the cash being siphoned off every single day? Locals pedal clunky bikes through muddy alleys. Battered jeepneys trudge through the pouring rain, mirroring a stagnant economy gasping for its last breath. The Americans once patted themselves on the back, holding them up as the perfect model of democracy in Asia. But oh boy, that democracy is now gridlocked in endless traffic jams, completely forgotten by the world. Truth is, the US didn't intentionally back them into a corner. The IMF pill was just way too bitter to swallow. Exploiting the chaos, the sitting president quickly turned the whole country into his personal family business. Corruption spread like a plague, and every foreign investor had to pay the piper. The lake looks calm on the surface, but underneath, a financial apocalypse is brewing. The charts snap and plummet into the abyss. The blood, sweat, and tears of the people grew wings and flew straight into secret Swiss bank accounts. By the time the volcano of public fury finally erupted, the dictator scrambled to flee with hundreds of crates stuffed with cold, hard cash. Then came the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Factories fell silent, stocks collapsed, and countless farmers watched their livelihoods disappear. To survive, millions of women left home to work overseas, sacrificing years of their lives while their children grew up without them. Today, shiny airports and modern malls sell the image of progress, but stagnant wages and sprawling slums tell a very different story. The deeper problem isn't external forces, but decades of elite mismanagement. Behind the beautiful skylines lies a future burdened by unresolved failures.